I visited the Temple of Audiophiles. Now I know you would wonder that what really is a Temple of Audiophile and how soon can I book myself over there? Well, guess what? A Temple of Audiophiles is something where a place literally has got some of the most finest speakers and the audio sound. And this is none other than House of Sound in New York for me. Now, in my last trip in 2023, I was really trying hard to book myself for a reservation at this temple. But unfortunately, they were sold out because it says that you have to book the slots at least 2 months well in advance. So, this time around, I did not miss it and I was well on time to book a slot for myself at this temple. And this House of Sound building was actually placed in a neighborhood of Soho, which was dominated for home interior products. So the location was on point. The entire building of 4 floors is something which is House of Sound. So it is not just one floor experience center, it's a full building. And in this building, you have got the brands of Sonus Faber and Macintosh on display. Now, we all know that recently Bose took over Sonus Faber and Macintosh. Now, it's a group which has predominantly been targeted a hi-fi segment, especially for music lovers. Now, Sonus Faber is an Italian handcrafted speaker company, whereas Macintosh is a US company based out of upstate New York. Now, Macintosh manufactures some of the best electronics in the world, whereas Sonus Faber makes one of the most finest designed loudspeakers for your home. And that marriage comes alive at this House of Sound. Now there are two rooms which were small listening rooms where they had the Sonus Faber Sonatos and the Amatos on display. Now these speakers are again very well known in the entry level category, but yet the representation of a two-channel music is extremely great. Listening in this House of Sound is literally a ritual. The sales guys or the team out there, they would just spend hours and hours understanding and trying to play around with the different tests of music and genres on these speakers. Apart from that, they had one room where they had the big XRTs on display, which is an XRT 2.1. Now, this XRT 2.1 is something which is one of the flagship speakers and a floor standing speaker of Macintosh. So, this is the only room where you will not see a presence of Sonus Faber, and it is going to be predominant of Macintosh. The entire wall of amplifiers as well as the speakers are all Macintosh. Now the XRTs were placed in a room which opens up to the downtown view. So it was having a nice little balcony on the sides, and on the other side was an open area. So it was just an average living room. Ricky tried to convince me with some of his tracks. He also played some of the finest Indian classical music which he was accustomed to, and I tried to surprise him with some of the tracks that I know. And I have literally recommended these tracks even in our test track playlist. So if you haven't downloaded it, make sure to hit the link above or check the link that is shared in the description. Because these are some test tracks that we have been trying to play around with various systems, and we know that the sound will be perfect when you play them with any of the speakers or hi-fi gear. After that, we moved to another room which was having the most premium speakers of Sonos Faber, that is the Supremas. Now, Suprema was actually built on a concept where Sonos Faber decided to design a speaker which was not necessarily meant to sell. It was only to understand that how premium can they go and what kind of design language can they introduce. And that is where the Supremas were born. It is basically a two-floor standing speakers along with the woofer cabinets being separate.
The Supremas were introduced about a year and a half ago at CES last year after somewhere between a 5 and 6 year project of development. And that project, the goal was to create the best speakers, and that was it, right? Just to build the best speakers, no matter how much they cost, no matter how long it took, and even if nobody ever bought it, right? As long as it was, we could say it was the best. So they built one set, they took it to CES last year, and they said, hey, just in case anybody wants one,
Yeah, for
850 grand a month to build. Who wants it? We have not stopped building. We are constantly on order, which is pretty crazy for an $850,000 set of speakers to never have a cessation in production. But the end result is what you're about to experience, which is where I'm going to press play, and you're just going to have music in this space. There's no speakers anymore. It's just music in
Wow.
this space. So before we do that, before we jump into a couple tunes, do you have any questions?
So I see 3 power amps out there. So you mentioned the twos are for one for the subs and one for the mains. What is the
No, it's not being used. Right
okay, it's just to fill up the space.
It
To create that.
Sometimes we use different speakers, and so we use different amps for the different speakers, and it also does look.
And the phase in phase out is again only for the speakers, not for the sub.
Say that again.
The phase in phase out is for the speakers or is it for the sub? For the sub. So even in the doors, you've got the bass, almost 5 drivers, right, for the bass?
Yes. So there's a few different sets of drivers here on the cabinet. So you have, I think there's 7 different drivers. So you have a mid-range driver, 2 different tweeters, so we're 3. Then these and this are the same, so that's 4. And then
And the
this is
middle one.
actually different, so that's 5. Another mid-range and another tweeter. So
Oh.
seven different kinds of drivers in the cabinet, even though 4 of the drivers there are 4 of one of them, right? So it's 11 drivers total, but 7 different kinds in this cabinet.
So what are these for? These are just to
So depending on the size
increase
of
the
room-
sound stage.
Yeah, depending on the size of the room. Where this room, it's not as, but I've seen them used in true ballrooms, right? Like huge spaces, and this becomes a lot more necessary.
Wow.
You'll also notice that when we're playing this, unless we go to like the extreme electronic tracks, like we're really like 200 watts maximum.
Yeah.
When they get into those big rooms, that same track will hit the 2K
Oh wow.
if you get it into a big enough space, right? So similar to where you saw upstairs, where one of the expertise was just drawing more power. If you give them the space, they will
take that power.
the power.
Apart from that, there was also a rack of all the input sources, right from the media streamers to the turntables, everything was separate. And that is how far you can go with your hi-fi journey. Now, one thing that literally astonished me in each and every of this room is the wattage. Now, in India, typically we all go by this wattage as the biggest calculating material where we feel that higher the wattage, better the speaker, higher the wattage, better is going to be the amplifier. But guess what? In a room which was 20 feet by 20 feet, but with Macintosh gear and with the Sonos Faber speakers, we were averagely listening to only 20 watts of sound. It was literally playing so much smoothly on the ears that you felt like sitting there and listening to the music for hours and hours. Now, that is the beauty of any of the hi fi systems where it is not about wattage, it is about having the right products connected to each other to give you the best experience. Now, this was what I learned at the House of Sound. Format. Along with that, they have got a laser projector and a nice 2.35:1 CinemaScope screen with a kaleidoscope media streamer. The setup out there was pretty casual. I loved the seating, I loved the ambience, and I loved how they ensured that the automation of all of these electronics is not done through some third party app. It is by their own systems. So by just having one click and with the trigger outs, they managed to turn on the entire wall of electronics of Macintosh flash up on the screen quickly. So all of this is something that we could experience. I personally enjoyed this with my cousins, and I definitely recommend that next time you are going to New York and if you're really a true audiophile, you should also pay a visit to this temple of audiophiles. It's free, and the link to register is something I'm going to share for you in the description. And if you need any further assistance, feel free to ask your questions in the comment section. Thank you so much. It was my pleasure of sharing this experience with you because I truly believe that in India or as Indians, we need to really understand the world of hi-fi better, and you should experience what I experienced at House of Sound. Thank you so much for watching this video. I, Tanmay Mehta, your home cinema consultant or home theatre wale bhaiya, will see you again in the next one. Thank you.